Today's podcast is brought to you by Behind the Tech with Kevin Scott, a podcast that goes behind the scenes with today's most innovative tech leaders. You can find links in the descriptions that are somewhere.
I actually listen to this podcast.
Yeah, don't spoil it.
I'm just saying I actually
We'll
listen
talk about it.
I mean, I don't listen to each episode. I kind of cherry pick the topics I care about or whatever. But
as would most logical people.
yeah, right.
I mean, like if you saw,
I didn't mean like that was a particularly insightful bit of how to on my part. It's just what I happen to do.
Yeah, I mean, like when you go to the restaurant, you don't usually intentionally pick the broccoli milkshake unless you like the broccoli. That's what I threatened my kid with.
I don't know. It's a little more mobile. Actually, where it is now, the camera's kind of where it used to be. So it was forward by like a foot. It's gonna be like a zoom thing or something. I like that.
You're looking more HD today, though.
Yeah. So what changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been testing different webcams in the like built-in webcams. By the way, long story short, they're all terrible. Okay, they're just terrible. But you can enjoy more of that this week. I think I'm going to try to do a little bit more of that. But for this show, I had meant to go back to a different laptop, or switch to a different laptop. I didn't have time because I wanted to show a little early. So I said, well, I'll just pop the other webcam on there, the one I usually use. And yeah, it actually, I mean, it's hard. I have different experiences sometimes watching it when we do it live, and then you see it later, and you're like, oh, I don't know. So yeah, but it does look better to me for some reason.
So are you using, and I'll only bring this up because it's a top post on throughout.com, the HP EliteBook 840 G7?
No, I was. So I've moved on to the EliteBook X 1040 X360 G, whatever I don't remember the G, but the latest version of that. So I don't actually know right now, like off the top of my head. Well, it doesn't matter. It's a different webcam. So I was gonna say I don't know how those webcams compare. I know the 840 has a wide angle lens, which is actually pretty cool. I used that last night on a call with friends from Boston. And then, man, I'm forgetting. There's something cool about this webcam, but I'm not using it. So
Great story.
Matter. Well, for this, I don't, right? Dude, what do you want when you do this at 8:30 in the morning? It's time change. This is really what, 7:30? I mean, come on. This is the earliest you've seen me in the morning. Am I right this time? Since like some
conference
Vegas trip or something.
Yeah. Hopefully listeners aren't listening to this podcast on their HomePod and thinking about how awesome of a device that is, because Apple is apparently saying goodbye.
Yeah. And I just, for the record, I'm actually kind of surprised by this, right?
So am I.
That the $99 version would be successful and the, $300-$400, whatever it was, is not surprising to me, right? But I feel like this is the type of thing that could cost reduced over time, and it's nice to have that upper end option to give your fans some like a whole house audio solution. I just small speakers. I understand the appeal. I have a couple of $99 speakers in my kitchen, for example. But if you listen, and you could kind of pop them all around the house and make stereo pairs and stuff. But those size speakers are just not. They're just not cutting it.
No, they're good for like ambient, you need noise or some sort of background music.
You need, yeah. No, I'm sure. By the way, I say that having never heard these speakers, but
true.
But just based on reviews and everything, I mean, I'm sure in that $99 space they rank up in there. They're fine. Like those new Google speakers, the Nest speakers are supposed to be great. We all know Sonos speakers are incredible. The Amazon even has some really nice sounding speakers now. So I'm sure they're in the mix like that, and that's fine. But I feel like for the whole system, you need at least to offer bigger and better speakers as well. Like
especially if anybody's, I wouldn't even say audiophile. Just if you enjoy audio, it just in general, like you might want to sub, but then there's no logical way to incorporate that into what Apple's got. So
it's we'll see what happens here. I mean, Apple and I would say Google. And I'm not 100% sure on the Amazon side, but probably Amazon too, I guess, need a home theater solution that integrates into this. They need some kind of a sound bar. They need some kind of a subwoofer. Sonos has all these things, right? Of course. And then there are just the normal stereo companies that offer that stuff. But I'm surprised, like Google you can't even put two Google Nest speakers in a, and attach them to a Google TV or anything. Like, they don't really work that way, and they should. And the Apple stuff should too. They have Apple TV. You think they would want a home theater experience?
Yeah.
So we'll see. Maybe they do get there.
They're taking their sweet time. And they're not,
sure. Yeah.
instilling a lot of confidence. There's something else I was going to say, but I totally just whiffed on that.
When I wrote about this, I don't remember all three of them now, but I kind of had like these three takeaways, and I just wanted to kind of put this in perspective, given other recent news announcements. The first one is just like, not everything Apple does is a success. I mean, we're so used to them hitting it out of the park every time. When they don't, it's a story, right? And people get sensitive about the companies they love, but whatever. But I mean, this product failed, so sorry. The other one is that Google and Microsoft are not the only companies that just get rid of things that people like. They may do it more, but this past year, I mean, Apple got rid of the iMac Pro, which I didn't write about because who cares? But I'm sure there are a bunch of people that love that thing. Obviously, the iPhone Mini has not done well, and now they're canceling this thing as well. And so this is just normal companies. This is what happens. It's fine. But I was just trying to say, compared to for the people on our site who were very upset about the Cortana stuff with the Invoke, not that these things are on the same level in any way. It's interesting. You can support products past their lifetime in different ways. And I would say just the Invoke, which should have been telegraphed as something that was never going to succeed, but whatever. At least they're doing something with it. Like, at least you can continue using it as a speaker. And of course, with the HomePod, they're not getting rid of any of that. I mean, they're going to continue forward, but providing it with updates or whatever that means. I think we can not expect very much there, but you can keep using it, of course.
I know what I remember what I was going to say. So in the world of Microsoft, they kind of push that if your org isn't $1 billion org, it's not really meaningful.
That's right.
To the company. And someone's going to be like, wow, whatever. But that's what they target. Like, we want your org to
Brad, seriously, you're either a $1 billion business at Microsoft or you're a Microsoft garage.
Yeah. So I wonder what that figure is inside of Apple, because Apple relatively has many fewer SKUs than a company of its traditional size. So what sales volume does the HomePod need to hit to actually be like a meaningful business inside of Apple?
It's a little more complicated than that, I bet, because they must have this matrix of how products and services feed into their entire ecosystem, and whether it's a supportive product for like an iPhone or one of the other key products. So this product never sold well, but something that's expensive that sells in low volume, as long as it's profitable, like, who would even care? I mean, do we believe that Apple ever sold this thing for a loss? I don't think they ever did.
No, I don't think they sold it for a loss.
Yeah. So, I mean, technically speaking, almost any Apple product should be sustainable. But I don't know, get rid of something like, what's 3 years, no updates, no meaningful like product update, like hardware updates.
Right.
Obviously they updated the software. And I don't think this thing has moved the needle. Google got rid of their giant speaker.
Yeah.
Instead of releasing new versions. It's kind of interesting. I feel like that was maybe one of my other points. They kind of seeded the market for premium smart speakers to Sonos, essentially, right? Not that there aren't other players, as every pedantic person in the comments has pointed out to me. That wasn't my point, but rather that there's Sonos and everyone else. Yeah. And Amazon's sort of pushing into that market a little bit with that studio speaker, that one thing. Google got out of it, and now Apple's gotten out of it. Yeah. And Apple, they're the ones you would think they would have stuck with us. I mean, just because of who they are, the premium market. I mean, why wouldn't you just have it there? We may not sell many of the Aston Martins, but it's like one of those aspirational things. I don't know.
Yeah, Astons are nice. Other things that are nice too, Paul, is if you're listening to this podcast, there's a good chance you've probably heard the name Kevin Scott. And if you haven't, that's completely okay. But he is the Chief Technology Officer officer at Microsoft, and he has a really cool podcast. His podcast is called Behind the Tech, and you can find it on all major platforms. But what he does is he goes behind the scenes with today's most innovative tech leaders. It's honestly like a really diverse technology podcast with a pretty cool guest list. Actually, this is what Paul and I were talking about right before this podcast and he goes, kind of behind the scenes with him. And who are some of those guests you might know? Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn, Sam Altman of Y Combinator, Mae Jemison, who is the first African-American woman in space. And the list goes on and on. Make sure to add Behind the Tech to your podcast feed, as there is an impressive back catalog that is worth exploring. And actually, Paul, he talked with Jacob Collier, I believe. Mm-hmm. I think that was their most latest episode. He won a Grammy yesterday, I believe. At least one. I think he was up for a couple of them. So
I forgot it was the Grammys because, I'm normal. How'd they do the Grammys?
What's that?
How'd they do the Grammys? Was it like a Zoom call with
I don't know. I didn't.
People? I can't even imagine.
I know award shows are like a peak industry thing. Like you want to win an award. That's great. But I've just never really been like, I've just never really watched them. It's nothing like particularly with the Grammys and the Oscars. I just don't watch them. Like I don't really watch much TV to begin with, but anyway. So.
Yeah, we don't actually. I don't even have a way to watch live TV at the moment. Not that, like, if you would texted me last night and said, "Hey, the Grammys are on," which would have been the stupidest conversation we've ever had.
Yes. Well, whoa. We've had some pretty dumb conversations.
Okay, so I'll call it an atypical conversation. So it's not like I would have jumped off from whatever I was doing and run over to the TV and be like, "Oh my god, I got to watch this." I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways. So you can go, that's Behind the Tech podcast. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a good podcast.
Other things that are happening within the tech industry, since we're on that vibe. I love that they announced this on Friday afternoon. It'll go up on Petri. I think you already wrote it up on Thurrott, that they're changing the Edge update cadence to match that of effectively Chrome. And they're adding what do they call it? Extended Enterprise
Extended stable, I think.
Yeah, extended stable. That's what it is, where you be updated every 8 weeks, but you'll still get security updates like every 2 weeks, something like that. So,
yeah, and this is roughly what Chrome is doing as well. Google is doing with Chrome, speeding up this stable. I guess in Microsoft's case, it's like dev, beta, and stable. Are those the only three? I think so. Yeah. Speeding up those releases to every 4 weeks from 6. And then, of course, for most people, that's probably the right choice. For some businesses, it's like, this crazy. Is unfathomable. Yeah. So actually, the situation is now better for them because they have this 8-week option. Mm-hmm. So it kind of solves every problem related to release cadence you can think of.
It makes it a little bit easier. I don't think that companies fret browser updates as much as they do OS updates.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
They're so innocuous, Yeah.
And they're so frequent, like there's nothing you can do.
Well, and but they don't really get in the way. Like the browser window disappears for a second, comes back, everything comes back exactly where it was. It's fairly non-destructive and not time consuming. So good.
Yeah. Other things that are good, because I totally forgot that I have a dentist appointment, is that today's podcast is brought to you by Behind the Tech with Kevin Scott. Make sure to check out the links in the description. That's Behind the Tech with Kevin Scott. And I've got to go get my brush teethed.
Have fun.
Yeah, something like that.